Marc Freedman has a purpose. As managing partner and co-founder of Evolved Profits, he and his team have over 40 years of experience in helping businesses free up cash so that it can be reinvested into helping employees, growing the business, and creating positive social impact. He is a serial entrepreneur, CEO, and the best-selling author of Expense to Profit: Eliminate the Costs That Sabotage Your Growth. Marc loves helping companies create more profits while being an agent for change. This is his purpose, and in an effort to help more companies and more people, Marc, along with co-host Yanik Silver, author of Evolved Enterprise, bring you Profits with Purpose, a podcast that aims to do just that. On the show, Marc and Yanik talk to successful corporate decision makers, exploring valuable lessons learned, experiences in growing a company, ways to reduce expenses, and all the ways a company can have a positive social impact. Join us each week and get in on the discussion so we can all have more profits with purpose. And now, here's your host, Marc Freedman.
Welcome to Profits with a Purpose. Today, our guest is Rogers Healy. He's the CEO and owner of the Rogers Healy Companies, a brand that started in the real estate sector. It's grown into a handful of successful other divisions under the Rogers Healy name. Rogers founded Rogers Healy and Associates Real Estate in 2006 and turned it into one of the most successful independently owned real estate firms in the country. In 2008, Rogers founded Healy Property Management, which has grown to one of the most successful property management firms in Texas. In 2009, he founded Healy Global Real Estate and Relocation, which is the only global company of its kind that helps clients with their real estate moving needs from anywhere to anywhere. Wonderful. During Rogers' 10-year business, he's been the recipient of many notable awards, including Realtor Magazine's 30 Under 30, Dallas Millennial Club's Entrepreneur of the Year, as well as Dallas Business Journal's 40 Under 40, the most influential leader in real estate, the Luxury Home Magazine. In 2018, Rogers was recognized as one of the top 100 realtors in the country out of over 2 million realtors with over 5 billion, yes, that's billion in closed deals and counting. Rogers aims to be one of the top of the list. His companies provide a sense of community and camaraderie. Rogers runs his companies based on a people-first attitude, a mentality that has led to a record growth last year, even in the midst of these uncertain times that we've been feeling. Rogers is a real estate expert on national TV for Fox, Fox News, Fox Business News, CNBC, Yahoo, TD Ameritrade Network, Cheddar, and MSNBC. Rogers is also the host of Selling MAGA Mansions. Welcome, Rogers, to Profits with Purpose.
Thanks for having me, and sorry for all the long bio. Thank you for including me.
Nah, no worries. I did forget to mention that you do surround yourself with your wife. Welcome to Abby, and congratulations, and best of luck with that. There's nothing like having a daughter, because I have one. So I will tell you, it's a blessing, followed by a son. And now I have 2 granddaughters. So it even goes on to bigger blessings. So there you have it.
We're excited. It's both of our first child, and took us a while to get to this point. And yeah, we're pumped and can't wait to welcome her in just a few months.
Wow. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So what really brought you into the world of real estate?
Long story short, just a bunch of failure. And I don't have a glamorous backstory, and I've learned to kind of embrace my perpetual, I was a quitter, I was a failure, and I never learned what it was like to actually work hard, even though I was surrounded by it through my family and my dad. And real estate was literally the first thing that I decided not to quit. And just all the work I never did with everything else, I put it into this. And the short answer is I was in college, went to SMU here in Dallas, and a lot of the students are from out of city, out of state, out of country. And I've always been a personable, social guy, and was a trustworthy person, hopefully still am. And people just ask me, because I'm from Dallas, where do I live when I get out of the dorms? And then I would show them around. And then one thing led to another, and I found out that you could actually get paid to represent people renting, and got my license. And kind of the rest is history with a twist. But there was never a moment in my life that I was like, I want to be a realtor when I'm an adult. It just kind of found me and became, my story.
Wow. That's, it's great sometimes how, even though we attempt to be successful, failure is a map to success.
Yeah.
And it sure sounds like it was for you. And by accident, you found what you have now created into something that's really special and really large. And, helping other families, being able to support their families, I think is absolutely huge.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I agree. And as you can see behind me, I'm really into music, and I find a way to talk about music whenever I can. And part of the thing I love about like a great musician is rarely did they become great without a struggle. And so, I have paintings of my favorite musicians behind me, but I'm really into it. And, there's parallels to getting to the top, and it makes you appreciate it that much more. And the only thing harder than getting up there is staying there. And so, yeah, I've learned through trial and error, what it takes to actually remain relatively successful.
So let's go to the trial and error for a second there, as long as you mentioned it. What really were the challenges starting your own business, and how did you overcome them?
I think that the short answer is I have struggled with empathy probably for the last 20 years. And I've also had, I think the hardest thing, during the second phase of your career, the third phase, whatever, is unlearning stuff, right? And the way that I led when I was 24 versus 42 is very, very different. And it's taken me a long time to really get a grip on what I suck at, and what I need to get better at, and what I'm, relatively great at. But I don't have that part of my brain or my heart or my head that can understand people that are lazy or that don't maximize their potential. And that's always a struggle for me. And I think that I have a tendency to go and speak very openly, which sometimes that might hurt somebody's feeling, it might offend them. And obviously it's all out of love, but I think that's a struggle for me as a leader. And I think that it's at the core of it is that I just really care about the people that are a part of our companies and our lives, that I want them to experience that euphoria of, oh my gosh, I'm actually doing what I should be doing. And it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And that's a struggle for me. And then obviously there's the cliche stuff. I mean, people betray you, they let you down, they steal from you, they do you wrong. And you never can prepare for a friend to quit over a text message. And it's just all the stuff that you think, oh, it's fine. I can work with friends. I can work with family members. And then you just start to experience it. And I think, to go back to Don Henley, who's right in the middle, he's my favorite singer ever, drummer, lead singer for the Eagles. One of my favorite songs he sings on his solo career is The End of Innocence. And I think that for me, over the course of looking back, I really miss just kind of seeing the world through rose-colored glasses. And I think as you start to mature and you get wise in the world of business, you learn more about people than you do about business. And it's kind of numbing, no matter what anyone says. It's hard, but it just makes you go and reprioritize. As a man of faith and as a family man, I mean, it's a pretty easy check to go and, punch yourself in the gut and realize that it's not about what you do when you're here. It's about how you leave it. And it's a long story long. It's a struggle for me. And I don't know if I'll ever perfect it, but I sure know that I have to work on it every day.
So yeah, that's a really interesting direction. Being a man of faith myself, the fact is, every day you try to do a little bit more, both personally and to make the world a better place.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the direction I hear you going. I know that's what we're all about here. But the key there is, having that faith, knowing that you may have changed something, someone, somehow,
Yeah.
and that change is going to have positive effect. It may have negative effect at first, but in the long run, it will have some positive effect. And so that's kind of how my view is, kind of probably similar to what you're thinking about. I've got a couple more years on you, and so I've probably had more failures and more successes, just because it comes with age, right?
Yeah, and I got thoughts on that too. I think that I'm genuinely not a smart person. I can read people, and I think that my wisdom came through all the mistakes and bad decisions, etc. But I also have learned, where was I going with this? I don't know what I was going to say. The frustrating part for me is that when I see somebody that can go and do something at a max level, I don't have the part of me that wants to be patient with waiting for them to grow. And I have to realize that it took me, 2 decades as a business owner to be able to say those words relatively poignantly, but it's hard. And I wasn't born with God-given talent of anything. That's literally nothing. I was funny. I know music. I can talk to people, but I can't sing. I can't juggle. I can't write. And most people that work at our company are literally, truly talented people, and they don't know how to go and fight through the next level. And that's hard for me. And that's always going to be hard for me because it just frustrates me. But, part of my growth is learning that God made everybody differently, and eventually, hopefully they can see the other side of it.
There you go. So let's talk for a second about the fact that, not only do you have one business, but you have three businesses. And to me, they seem pretty synergistic. Why don't you talk about what led to creating the other two businesses and how they help each other be more successful?
Sure. Not to be the guy that pumps my own ego, but so we've actually got more than three up here, and they mostly revolve around the real estate space. I learned that very quickly, the easiest way to make money is to create a convenience. And by creating the convenience for someone else, obviously it inconveniences your life, and you have to learn how to kind of figure things out. And I didn't get married till I was 40, and in large part because I was married to my work. But real estate, residential, also in a commercial real estate company, property management company, global relocation company, and then a company that focuses on ranches and lake houses and raw land. And it's all really based off the convenience factor, but also just the sense of fear that if Marc and his family have a real estate contact in Boca Raton, Florida, then that real estate contact should have the contacts for everything that Marc and his family would need, whether it's a mover, whether it's a realtor in Dallas, whether it is a custom clothing person. And the minute that a salesperson says, you know what, I don't know, that's a failure to the salesperson, and it gives Marc and his family the door open to go find someone else that might know somebody, and then they might know the real estate person. And so over the course of just frankly getting my ass handed to me and getting burned, I was like, screw it. I'll start a property management company. I don't know what the heck I'm doing, but it just kind of evolved, right? And then I learned that I was a plate spinner, and I would spend all my day and I still do it. I'm running around like a crazy person all the time, but it was just all based off of needs and knowing that a lot of people don't want to start a business because it's brutal, it's expensive, and you never know. But for me, it was like falling in love. Like you just feel alive, and there's parts of you that you kind of miss the growing phase. And so it's all real estate stuff. And then, like anything, if you do it long enough, eventually you probably get a little worn out, not necessarily bored, but it all becomes kind of one big day. And so about a decade ago, I started doing venture capitalist stuff and starting side projects that had nothing to do with real estate. And I think that kind of keeps me sane. And I think if you got the capacity to do that as an individual, it's a great idea, even if you lose everything, because it just, I don't know, it just makes me feel alive. It's my own version of a rush.
So let's talk for a second about the culture of your business. Is there a core culture that you try to foster, and how does that contribute to the success of your different businesses?
Yeah, sure. So obviously profits with purpose. I think that I never put a business plan together. I never had our core values, which I probably should do. But I'll tell you that when COVID hit, and as someone who's very cautious, in large part because my wife was in a coma and just some scary stuff happened, the people always come before the profits. And I think that's a hard thing to preach and to talk about until you're given a platform to go and prove your word. And that's the mantra here. And I also think that it's the fact that we have, as cliche as it sounds, we truly have a family feel office environment. And when you have that, especially in a competitive, rabid, snake-infested industry like real estate, the office eventually becomes a safe haven. And that's a really hard thing to do, where normally if Marc and I are coworkers, we're competitors, which means you're waiting for me or I'm waiting for you to fail. But that's not how it is here. And it's a kind of double-edged sword, because you do want the people to compete against each other, but they care so much that it's a genuine happiness when someone else wins the deal. And that's the stuff that I still am the most proud of. But yeah, the culture breeds everything. But I've also started hiring recently off of qualifications versus just being a good person. And even with staff jobs, I started like, oh, Marc, you're a nice guy with a cool beard. You don't know social media? I'll teach it to you, right? And then it just was this perpetual like, it's exhausting. And so now it's got to be intersection of a great person and greatly qualified. And then when that comes together, there's an explosion of opportunity.
Right. Plus, it's also got to fit and meld within the existing environment so that person feels like they're part of a family as opposed to not being part of the family.
Yeah. And also realizing that there are some families where maybe one kid listens to heavy metal, another one listens to country, and they're still related, but they don't have to go and be best friends. And that's something I had to learn the hard way too. It's just, it takes a special type of ingredient to put a real family together. And you don't have to look the same, act the same, believe in the same things, but as long as you respect each other, that actually works.
So with this this large interest in service to others, and particularly, I guess your alma mater, which is SMU, what motivates you to give back to others?
I think it's a myriad of stuff. I think that the first is, I think the best big brothers and big sisters and moms and dads, in large part, are ones that didn't have the best big sisters, big brothers, moms, dads, even though I have the best parents. But when I was an undergrad or when I was a young alum or even now, rarely did anyone ever reach out and just say, how can I help? And again, it just goes back to what I was saying earlier. You just kind of anticipate the, okay, and here's how it can help me approach. But giving back just because you want to, whether it's with money or time, and time is more valuable, it helps the person that's giving as much as the person receiving. And I think that's a very, it's an old school way of thinking, but it works. And being able to go and realize that, a 21-year-old is very impressionable and very influenced, like they can be influenced very easily. And to see that over the course of like 2 or 3 months even it's just a different kind of real. And just, again, it goes back to the Don Henley end of innocence, to just experience the purity, even though, they're obviously college kids or young alum and they've seen life, but it just makes me miss it. But also makes me appreciate where I'm at. And when you can do that to scale, and we have a lot of people that work here, and you give them the opportunity to go and give back an hour a month or an hour a day or whatever, it just goes to a greater good, and it bonds you on a level that has nothing to do with real estate.
Amazing. So one way that you're giving back is your RHA license launch, which pays for real estate licensing for people. Why don't you tell us about the program? And obviously we've heard a lot of motivation, but what specifically motivated you to start the Institute?
Real estate is dominated by people that are not aligned when it comes to what's most important. And I think, especially if you come from a background of not being successful, not having money, and all of a sudden you're successful and you have money, it's the forbidden fruit. And so I tell you that where we recruit, we're blessed to have a lot of people reach out on a regular basis that want to work here. And for the most part, they're qualified in the right way. But the short of it is we have the best training program of any real estate company I know of in the world. And so I would prefer to go and bring people into the company that maybe we're needing a push, like the financial push, and we train them the way that we think they should be trained, versus, people that have had success and they think that they're more important than someone else. They come here and they're a cancer to the culture for real. So the short answer is it's twofold. One is charity, right? And charitable, and you want people to feel special, but it's still business. And it's also been probably the most marketable idea I've ever had, because it's giving people the gift of confidence and like, oh my God, you chose me and you invested $1,500 in me versus these other people. Like, hell yeah. And then they come here, they make money, they stay humble, and they become, foot soldiers for recruiting. And this license launch thing is a great platform, not just for DFW, it's anywhere. And I think what we've done is we've proven that you can go and help bring people to significance in real estate in less than 6 months, where most people that are in my position run from new agents, but we're running to people that aren't even licensed yet, all while still having agents that are fully licensed and doing their thing. And when they see somebody brand new coming up to them, it keeps them on the same page.
Wow. That's great.
Thanks.
Do your businesses have any other social responsibility initiatives in place? Is there a philanthropic spirit that really permeates throughout the business?
Yeah, and we have a thing called RHA Gives Back. So RHA, Rogers Healy and Associates. It's my first and last name. I'm very unoriginal, but we do something once a month at least with the community. Whether literally, I think on Monday for MLK Day, we had a few agents, probably 50 to 100, go to the North Texas Food Bank and spend the day there boxing, canned goods, which that's just kind of a very basic way to give back. But I've got a phone call in an hour with a friend of mine who's a high-profile actor, and they're trying to raise money for lymphoma research, and they've committed to $250,000. So we're going to partner with them online and employ 500 plus people that work here to raise $50, right? So it just goes back to, to much is given, much is expected. And I never learned how to think expansively until a few years ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, we have 50 people working here. Why can't we go and bring in a mortgage company that can help sponsor a Christmas party? I'm like, oh my God, that worked. Why can't we do it with a roofing company? And then how do we help the roofing company meet the agents to where they stay? It's just this bigger picture of thinking, but really more leading. And I think that was, kind of part of, part of the game. And I'm still learning.
Yeah. So this give back, it positively impacts society around you. Is there any piece of advice that you have that you would give other entrepreneurs that are in a situation, not necessarily in the real estate business, but like yourself, someone who runs multiple businesses that maybe don't have a program in place, to give them a bigger purpose? What would you suggest to them?
Start it. And do it around something that, seriously, find something that I can talk about music all day long. And I would much rather talk about music than real estate or business or finance, whatever. I would rather talk about music. And that's because it's my heart speaking and it's natural and it's easy. And I can talk about the power of it. And if I could, and we're working on it, my wife and I are going to go create a Healy family music gives back, where we might give somebody a record player or whatever it is. And that to me is a different kind of special. So I think there's a way to go and get creative where all the worlds could collide in a good way. But you'll also learn with starting the charity, there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through. And sometimes it's not a problem to ride someone else's coattail that already has it established, because that's their actual business in itself. So do it. And I think every day you wait, you're letting somebody down, including yourself. And if somebody would have told me that a while back, I would have, had a little bit more of a get up and go. But do it. If not, you're failing yourself, and that's a slap in God's face.
Interesting. So, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
I don't know if it's the best, but it's the one I remember the most. It was, the first thing you sell is yourself. And I heard this when I was in high school. My grades sucked. I'll never forget the guy, Jeff Burns. I haven't seen him since. But I think that was like my first big piece of advice, where I was like, you know what? Grades don't matter. And that became the theme of the next 5 years of my life as a terrible student. But I think looking back now, my mentor, my dad is one of my mentors, but his best friend is my business mentor. And the one that he always tells me is, you got to be yourself because everyone else is taken. And it's a famous quote, I think, by Henry David Thoreau, I think, or maybe Henry Ford, or maybe Hank Aaron. I don't even know. Somebody named Henry. And I have to remind myself that. And again, just being yourself naturally is such a freeing feeling, but it's so easy to just sell out in the world of business, especially when you start making money and being successful. But you gotta kind of dance with the one that brought you, and that was the person that you were before you figured it out. So yeah, best piece of advice: be yourself. Everyone else is taken.
Love it. I actually never heard that before. I love it. That's great. So is there anything that I haven't mentioned that you want to touch on?
No, I'm grateful for all these questions. They're great. And obviously I can talk comfortably about it, but how would you describe your audience? What would be the stereotypical person probably listening to this?
I would say they're entrepreneurial business people. Some have small businesses, some have very large businesses. And they're looking for ways to make their business better. And that's what our show is all about. That's what our podcast is all about. That's what our business is all about, because we have a process where we also give back for the fees that we get paid by our clients. We give back 5% of those fees to a nonprofit or a community initiative that the client directs us to give it to, not where we want it to go, where they want it to go. So,
I love that.
yeah, I mean, that's part of what it's all about. It's profits with a purpose, and making sure you direct that to the appropriate places where it needs to go. It makes you a better citizen. It makes the world a better place. And that's really what we're all about.
I love that. Well, now let me answer the question. What would be my piece of advice? Don't wait. Don't wait. And that doesn't mean do things in haste, but whatever it is that you're seeking out to do, and it's going to make a difference. No one ever had to tell me, oh man, I wish you, it's like, no, I don't wait to go and try to make a difference. And I think that has gotten me into a lot of trouble. But if you don't wait with strategy, then beautiful things happen. And especially giving 5% back. I mean, that's a reason. You're giving people a reason to work with you. And for me, my reason for such a long time was that I had energy. But now it's that I'm on a mission. And I think when you know what your mission is, there's no reason to wait.
Absolutely. So we will obviously have a lot of your contact information in the show notes that go along with the podcast. But if somebody wanted to get in touch with you because they heard something that really sparked an interest, how would they do that right away?
Internet. I mean, you can social media, email, doesn't matter. Just Rogers Healy. It's a unique and a weird name in itself. And we're very interactive with email, social media, etc. But yeah, hopefully something sparked something in somebody. And Seinfeld was the most successful show ever because it was a show about nothing. And I'm kind of a business owner about nothing. All I do is just think very simply. And, if there's one person that heard this and it gave an impact, then that's a win.
Cool. Great. Rogers, thank you so much for your time. This has truly been wonderful.
Yeah, man.
Best of luck going forward.
Thank you. And I'll take all the daughter advice you can give me because God knows I'm going to need it.
Yes, you will.
Okay. Well, have a great day. If you need anything, just let me know.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Profits with Purpose. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you are interested in reducing the expenses of your business, creating positive social impact, or contributing to the show, reach out to Marc or Yanik with Evolved Profits by emailing podcast@evolvedprofits.com or visiting the website www.evolvedprofits.com.